This is the PKS Running Club. Ordinary runners, extraordinary stories. I'm Paul, PKS Runs, and each week I sit down with another runner and get their real story. Not the highlight reel, whoever they are. Find me on YouTube, Instagram and TikTok as PKS Runs. Enjoy the show. So, welcome back to the PKS Running Club. Really, this is my excuse to talk to people that I've met in real life who I find interesting and I like, or people that I've come across online who I find interesting and I like. The heart behind it is to chat to ordinary people about their running and their fitness journeys, find out a little bit about their life, the motivations, the things that drive you. I am so excited to be chatting to Dan today, who I met in the French Alps in February. I've even worn a very, very special t-shirt for this interview. Dan, welcome. How you doing, mate?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really good.
Good.
Yeah, loving life.
Dan, just so that we can set the scene, just explain a little bit about what you were doing in France and how I ended up meeting you. Tell us, give us a bit of your backstory.
Yeah, so when we were in the French Alps, I was working for a Christian missionary charity where we have 4 areas of our mission. We have the church service that we run on a Sunday. We have our beer and burgers where we give out free beers and free burgers to seasoners.
I'm going to stop you right there, Dan. I'm going to stop you right there because you have given me the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, there we go. The beer and burgers shirt.
I'm wearing
Amazing.
The beer and burgers t-shirt.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and so we give out the free beers and free burgers to the seasoners, to the people who have come to the resort for the winter who are going to be working there. Then we also have our refuge beds for the people who lose their jobs in the resort. You often come with accommodation and you often lose that within about 3 days.
Wow.
And our final area, possibly our bigger one, but there's more outreach, is our ski angels, where we stand outside of après bars during the week and we support people. Like when they come out and they're looking for their skis, we help them find it. Or if they need first aid, in some cases, we've given first aid to them and help them get them down the mountain, or help them make the last lift back over the valley.
Yeah, incredible. I went out and spent a week there because my daughter Gracie was there, obviously friends with you, Dan. And we got to go out and do a bit of running together, which was amazing. I got to flip burgers for beer and burgers, which was absolutely amazing. I got to play guitar at the church service, which was incredible. And also I got to go out and do the ski angel stuff. And it is incredible. I was absolutely zero use, largely because I can't actually ski. I'm a beginner snowboarder. I spent more time on my face than I did in any other kind of position. But what you guys do was just across the whole resort clearly was exceptional. So folks, if you've not heard of Altitude Mission, just go and look them up. That's a little advertising piece there. But Dan, we got out and ran a couple of times, and I remember at the time you saying to me, "Oh yeah, I'm training for an ultra marathon." You're from, and you explained that you're from the Lake District. Why don't we start there? You go out to France for a season, and pretty much almost as soon as you come back, you've got an ultra marathon. What was going through your head?
Coming back from France with that ultra marathon in mind was really nerve-wracking. I was hoping to get a lot more training done in the Alps. We were at elevation. Yeah. We were in mountains. Yeah. And I got to ski most days. So it sounds perfect. Yeah. Perfect for training. However, through, I think, two concussions, possibly a third one that I'm not sure about, and a knee injury, I didn't get much training, consistent training done in France, which was quite a shame. So when I returned home, I was feeling a little under pressure for it. To say the least.
And had you done an ultramarathon before?
No. The furthest I'd run is 30k.
30k. So you thought, do you know what? Let's not even bother with a marathon. Marathon is small fry. That's like chump change. Yeah. Let's just go straight to ultramarathon. Like, talk me through that process, because most people don't do it that way. A lot of people these days go, "Oh, I've just started running. I should do a marathon." That's common, and honestly, I find it a bit frustrating. What was going through your mind? Why did you even get that notion in your head that an ultra would be a good idea?
I think for me, like, I've grown up watching my dad start running, like doing literally couch to like, running a mile, then 5K, then he did a 10K race, then a half marathon, then he's done a marathon, and then he's gone into ultra scenes. And sort of seeing where I get the most fun out of things. What events do I go to and think this is the coolest? And for me, that is the ultra marathon scene. When you go there, it's not about your time. It's not about, the pace that you run at. It's the community, and it's really just a good day out. And so I just sort of thought to myself, I'm not so bothered about running 26 miles and worrying about a pace, because that just seems like hell. I'm just going to go and run a long way, hurt myself, but have a great day out.
Yeah. And it's that, because I read a lot about that. I read a lot of running books. And funnily enough, just reading a book about kind of the origins of the backyard ultras and reading all about, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. It's so annoying because he's got such a great name. But every book I've read that references ultramarathons and talks about ultramarathons and people's journeys to ultramarathons, everybody says that same thing. It's about the community. It's about it's not about the time and the pace. But is there not even just a little bit where there is? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you keep that down? There must be a sense of competition in it for you.
I think it's not necessarily competition. I mean, it depends. If you are like say, for example, there are different types of ultramarathons. You have backyard ultras, then you have your traditional start to finish ones, for example. Your backyard ultra, you'll get some people who want to just get to 100 miles and then they'll stop. There are other people who want to go until they can't anymore, and you have other people who are there to win and do whatever it takes. I feel like in terms of I would say a normal ultramarathon, going from one place to another, I don't think you'll find many people going for a time unless you're at the elite level. I think you'll find people are just trying to run the 50 miles. But I think that in the one that I did, but in the last 15K, I was looking at my watch going, sub 12 is on here. And that's when I just decided to, the whole day I'd just been walking up the hills. Yeah. And then I decided in the last 5K, 75 kilometers in, I'll just run up the hills and just, ended up just going for the sub 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're going to come back to that, because part of maybe excellent podcast hosting is keeping the listener in suspense. Yeah. So let's come back to the ultra marathon and for a moment, just go back to France, because at the time we did a little bit of a run. We ran up the hill and came back down again. I say hill, it's a mountain. It felt like we ran uphill forever and ever, and it was exceptionally disappointing when I then looked at Strava and it's like, you've done 200 meters of elevation. You're like, oh, really? It literally felt like we had climbed a mile. Two things that you chatted with me about, and whilst we were there, were boot packing and ski touring. I wrote it down just in front of me. And I'm just wondering about what sort of impact they will have had on your training and your readiness to run an ultra. Because firstly, in fact, why don't you just explain what they both are? Because honestly, they sound completely psychotic and the sort of thing that completely deranged people would do. But completely deranged people run ultra marathons. So it kind of checks out.
Yeah. So they are similar in you have the same goal in mind, but you have a different way of doing it. It's like whether you walk or you run it. Boot packing and ski touring, I'm going to focus on what they are together, but it's usually like you go up for a sunrise. Sometimes you will walk up a mountain and start at like 4 a.m. or for instance, I did one where I started at 1:45 a.m. and you walk up to the top of the mountain for the sunrise and then you ski down afterwards. Other times you will boot pack or ski tour during the daytime, but you will go off piste, away from the piste, up the hill where there are no lifts, so that you can get the nice powder lines. You often do it for the nice off piste that you'll find.
For the fresh snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And put that into perspective then for us. When we talk about climbing the mountain, that is you are literally climbing the mountain. So, I mean, from where we were, so we were in Maribel, which I think the chalet was about 1,400 meters.
Yeah, 1,400 meters.
Yeah, and so these thumbs up are annoying, aren't they? how far were you climbing to get that perfect powder line or to see the sunrise?
I think for the sunrise, I think you've climbed maybe 13, maybe 1400 meters of
Yeah.
elevation. And I think, yeah, you'd often do about the same. But like ski touring, if you want to go and get the powder lines, sometimes you can just get the lift up during the day. Just do like the last 100 meters, 200 meters of elevation.
Yeah.
Just on ski touring. So you do a lot less, but you kind of cheat your way there, I guess, if you want to say that. Whereas, yeah, if you want the sunrise, you really have to work for it because you'll be in the dark and in the cold.
And you're wearing, presumably, are you wearing your ski boots?
Yeah, so I've done a couple, and the people I've been with have done both. So if you're boot packing, you'll often I choose to walk in ski boots because I don't own any crampons or snowshoes. Some people have done it in trainers, failed, and had to put on their ski boots because there's just no grip. So you need something grippy. Snowshoes are the best, and crampons because they're the most comfortable, and they're also not very heavy. Ski boots are very heavy and you often have to kick your foot into the snow every step. But ski touring is my option. It's the fastest and it's the easiest.
Okay, so I want to talk about ski touring, but let's just finish boot packing. Let's kind of draw a line under that. So I suppose the thing I'm really fascinated by is you're saying, oh yeah, we climbed 1,300 meters in the dark. Snowdon in Wales is what, 1,000 meters, maybe?
Yeah.
And people will take hours to walk up Snowdon from the car park along the train line. And what you're talking about is walking in ridiculously heavy boots with skis on your back.
Yes. Yeah, skis often on your back.
Skis on your back. I guess you've got your poles. And you're climbing up an unmarked path. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, you often take the piste, so the piste will have the banners on it, so you can sort of tell where the piste is because it's like the nicer snow or like the smoother. It's like where the grass has been cut, basically.
Yeah, sure. But it's not easy, is it? I mean, that sounds absolutely exhausting. And I did remember that we discussed whether I should come and do it, and I was going to come in snowboard boots, and I think it would have been a real challenge. And then ultimately, I just thought I do not like the sound of snowboarding on ice at 7:30 in the morning, having just walked for 5 hours. And I think that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. The amount of leg strength and just, I think, aerobic fitness that would have been developed in that, I think, is a huge thing. So now let's talk about ski touring, because that also just, fascinates me.
Yeah, so ski touring is, instead of having your skis on your back, you have these special types of skis with the special bindings, we call them, where you clip in, and you are walking up the hill, but with your skis on. You have these skins that you put on the bottom of your ski that have hairs on them that only face one way, so that when you push it forward up the hill, it goes forward, but it doesn't slide back down because of the direction of the hairs. And so then you can take them off at the top and you then peel them back on and peel them off. But they are often quite a hassle. So people often practice taking them on and off because it takes time. It takes about 5-10 minutes to do. It can take towards 10 minutes if you're untrained. It can take someone 2 minutes if they're really trained in it, in their transitions. And walking in skis are heavy. But it's really, really good for your leg strength because you're dragging your legs up the mountain.
Yeah. When you see people walking around a ski resort in ski boots, everyone has this sort of stupid walk because, like, I don't know, it's just not easy to walk in ski boots. So to ski in ski boots uphill, walking uphill, it sounds extraordinary. So to be a complete nerd, were you like monitoring your heart rate data on any of that?
No, but I was trying to I think generally you stay probably zone 2 or zone 3. You usually hold a conversation very easily. Yeah. Maybe that's because of the temperature, but maybe also like I think just the pace you go at is just really important. Like it is hard work going uphill. Like sometimes it is really, really steep and sometimes it's just really shallow and it's just like walking on flat ground but with skis attached to you.
Yeah. And how long were you going out and doing that then?
So uphill, I think the longest I've gone uphill for is about 4.5 hours. But the shortest I've been is probably 2 hours when I was doing a different location, and that was only maybe 800 meters of elevation, but that took me 2 hours rather than 1,400 meters.
So you might see where I'm going with this. On an average week then, how much time are you spending ski touring and boot packing? If you were to average per day.
Average per day was very low. I think I did it maybe once, maybe twice a week, because it's very difficult to find someone willing to go up at sunrise and do it. So I'd often have to do it during the day. And even then, that was quite boring when you could just take the lift that would take 2 hours less. So it was a bit of a pointless thing to do in the day. So it was basically whenever someone said, hey, I want to go do a sunrise hike, you say, I'll come do it with you. So it would often be about maybe, I think roughly, probably if I were to average it over the season, probably 2 hours a week was probably the thing.
And then the ski touring?
Yeah, probably similar as well. I think that's sort of like, between boot packing and ski touring, probably 2 hours a week. Not very much, but I spent a lot of time just on the slopes going downhill. And even that would have built leg strength in itself.
Yeah. Are you a go fast kind of skier when it comes to going downhill? Because all of the boot packing and the touring all sounds very painfully slow. Are you also a bit of a speed demon on the other side of it? Is there a thrill, or is it all just like, oh, I'm just happy just plodding around? What's your preferred?
I quite like my cruisy runs. However, that does mean going fast. I think I clocked 70 miles an hour this season on skis. And that was on one of the worst days this season. I think it was a blizzard that day, and I couldn't really see very far ahead of me, but I was kind of just sick of turning because it was just so difficult. Because there's just so much snow. So I ended up just saying, stuff it, and I just went straight down. Just pointing the skis down that day. And I think I definitely prefer to go faster. I find much more of a thrill, but I'm also very happy just taking my time, not needing to rush anywhere.
Yeah. Wow. So I suppose the question is, what... So you said that you didn't train really very much in France, running specific training, but what you have discussed or talked about is some pretty heavy sessions where you will have been doing some really good zone 2, zone 3, exceptional leg strength. And again, we've not got to how you got on with your ultramarathon, so we'll come back to that. But do you think that has massively impacted your ability to run? Do you think do you feel the benefit?
Yeah, I think the base that I had in France was so beneficial. If I'd come back with no leg strength, say if I had just gone to the beach in Greece for 6 months instead, I'd have had a much tougher time. I think just the general just skiing every day, being out, just walking around town even, because even the town was still a hill. It is. We were at the top of staying at the top of the hill. All the pubs and the restaurants were down the hill, so you had to walk up and down quite a lot as well. So that leg strength was just really, really key to have, and such a benefit to have.
Quick pause, because obviously we've got sponsors lined up just around the corner. We don't. We're way too small for that. And honestly, I kind of love it. No ad reads, no discount codes, no use PKS10 for 10% off. Just runners talking to runners. So instead of a sponsor, here's the actual ask. If this episode hits you in any way, please send it to one person, a mate, a family member, a training partner, somebody who needs to hear it. Follow at the PKS Running Club on Instagram. That's where all of these stories live in between episodes. And hit subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss the next one. That's it. That's the ad. Now, back to the show.
So, let's rewind even further in your story. And I think we discussed when I was in France, but you talked about it when you were actually preaching at church. You talked about your mental health. Would you be happy to go there and tell us a bit about your journey with mental health and where you've got to, where have you been? What's that journey been like? And I'm just always interested, as somebody who I've suffered for as long as I can remember with depression and anxiety. It's always interesting to hear other people's stories, and I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, so very happy to talk about it. So I think for me, I really started suffering from it at school. And I think that like it really started in when I was about 12 years old in year 7. I started getting like bullied, I'd say, but it wasn't really that bad. It was by one guy. And I mean, it is still bullying, but it was okay.
Yeah.
And I was managing it. I didn't really think much of it. I just sort of kept going. But internally, my esteem was going down, my self-esteem. And time passed by. Year 8 came, and it was same thing was happening. Then year 9 was sort of like the end of school. It was a prep school. So I changed school at that point. And I joined a new school. And that's when I found it got worse. Instead of one guy bullying me, it was quite a few. It was quite a number of people. And that continued until year 11. And so then, you know, all of that bullying kind of really wrecked my self-esteem. And I think like I just really struggled with different things. Like my anxiety was through the roof as well. Like how I thought about myself, you know, really negative thinking.
Yeah.
But also just like people walking past me on the street and just like commenting on me. And I'm like, you know, that now I'm thinking about that, that's just like not normal. But thinking that's normal and that there's something wrong with me was really, really hard as like a 14, 15-year-old lad. Yeah. So I think that's sort of like where it sort of stemmed from. And then moving forward, I then started to, I used to wake up screaming to my alarm, which is the craziest thing because it meant I had to live another day. And that's like how bad it was getting is like I'd have panic attacks walking out the door of my house, not wanting to go to school, not even wanting to go to the shops because of what people might think about me. And so then when I got to like 15 years old, I think it was like the week before fireworks night, Guy Fawkes night, I was sort of like, I was in a really dark place and I was really suicidal. And I think that's like sort of my, like, that's sort of like where my peak is in terms of my mental health. That was like my biggest trough. And by that point I was, you know, I wasn't necessarily drinking very much, but I was definitely just trying to find ways to solve my problems and none of them were working. And that's when I actually then retried my faith. You know, I'd grown up in a Christian home, but then by COVID time, when I was maybe 13, I'd sort of given up on it or like, you know, not really thought about it. So when I got to that time, I sort of said like a Hail Mary prayer. And, you know, then a couple of days later, it was Guy Fawkes night. And I met this lovely girl who has become my best friend. But she saw straight through the facade of like this guy who's all fine and saw straight to the heart of the guy who's actually, you know, at that time, 4 days away from not going to be here anymore. Yeah. And that was really hard. But that date then came and it passed and I'm still here and I've been battling with it pretty much ever since. And it's, you know, it's been up and downs. I've had 2 more very deep troughs as well where I've had the same experiences, but every time I've come out of it. And
I know that journey. It's horrible. It's exhausting. It's tiring. It's emotionally breaking. So what you talked there about faith, and you kind of say you prayed that Hail Mary prayer. What was it that? What's been the circuit breaker for you? Is it maybe giving up some control? Is it just kind of full surrender? Like, how do you get past that? Because I think we're never taught at school. How do you deal with dark, suicidal thoughts? No one ever tells you about that stuff. So how have you navigated that?
I think that the first time I went round it, I was on my own and I didn't have anyone. I think then the second time I had one friend, maybe 2 friends, but I kept getting told, you should talk about it. But not really, like, being so embarrassed about these feelings and how you're feeling is really hard to then talk about. And also just the shame that comes with it. So the second time it came round, I didn't speak to anyone either. And then the third time it came round, I finally spoke and I got put through the CAM systems. And, you know, I was finally able to talk about it. And that's when I finally told my parents about the last 8 years, 6 years, 7 years or whatever, you know. And, you know, so that whole journey was sort of held by myself. But I think the best thing you can do is actually just, when you're in that pit, is sort of just like, for me, I'd recommend looking into Jesus. I think that's my biggest thing. Like, he is literally the rock that is always there. People will always let you down. People always fail you. But I found that Jesus will never. Yeah. He is literally a constant that has never moved. Yeah. But he can change your life like you've never seen it, like he's changed mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, mate. It's a beautiful message. I just feel so sad that for so long you had to deal with that. You're alone. I think that's just heartbreaking. Like, that really is. And I'm just so thrilled and happy that you've got to a place where you're able to talk about it. And speaking as somebody who I've battled with it since I was probably 18, maybe longer, I don't know. I think being able to share it, and as embarrassing as it can be, and as I'm struggling to find the right word, but it can feel quite dehumanizing when you own up to it for people the first time. And I think that you have experienced that at this point, what, you're 19, 20, 19. Yeah, I just think, wow, what a gift. Because I wasn't acknowledging and dealing with those thoughts until I was probably in my very late 20s. And that you're able to understand that it is absolutely incredible. So, yeah, wow, well done.
Yeah,
and I think you've put yourself into positions, you've put yourself into community, you've put yourself in around other people, which I presume has been a challenge and a stretch for you, as well as maybe something that's given you life. I don't know if that's right, but could you speak to that at all?
Well, yeah, in terms of being with people, one of the hardest things ever. When I'm, struggling to even go out of my house, to now, now where I spent last week at the Keswick Convention just down the road, and I met 30 people that week that I just went up to and was like, hey, how are you? What's your story? Or I was, spoken to, or, a mutual friend of, and I ended up doing, a sunrise hike, night lake session. I went to a gender reveal for a baby of someone I met 6 hours before. Just
Amazing.
So many things that happened. But I think the most important thing is when I have a conversation now, I'm so lucky that I have got my foundation in what Jesus says I am. If someone doesn't like me, I'm okay with that. I'm going to try and be the best person I can be, and I want to be the nicest and most loving person I can be. But if someone has a problem with me, I'm okay with that. Whereas a couple of years ago, I was big people pleaser and worried if someone was, didn't like me. But I think the most important thing is if you are meeting someone for the first time, you often have an awkward interaction between two people. And if I can be this person and they're that person, what you need to do is you need to be the more confident but not cocky person, and be nice to them but confident, and lead the conversation. Because instead of having two awkward people who are struggling to communicate, if you can have one confident person, it makes this person's job way easier to communicate as well. It actually makes their conversation way more enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned over the last few years, finally, I'm 46 now, that really there is so much more that is similar between people than there is stuff that divides us. When you think of our genetic breakdown, our DNA, that our very physical beings, our spiritual being, our emotional being, there is so much more that is similar than there is that is different. And I've struggled for years with social anxiety. It put me in a room full of strangers, and I really hate it. For me, PKS runs was a kind of a bit of a persona, like a way of creating a personality, so that when I walk in the room, people just expect PKS runs, and I then have to perform. I have to be that guy. But what I realise is when everybody walks into a room full of people that they don't know, everybody is dealing with that same social anxiety and those same questions of, do people like me? Are people judging me? Are people looking at me? Am I going to say something stupid? Am I going to make an idiot of myself? And when you realise that ultimately we all want the same thing, we all want to be happy, we all want to be loved, I think deep within everybody, we all do want to love. I think some people struggle to show that, and some people are just idiots. But I think deep within us, we're created as loving beings, and if we can kind of get over ourselves, it changes the whole game. It really does. And I can be a real prick sometimes. I really can. But I never intend to. And the moments where I'm not a prick, I really do see the benefit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I saw when I came out to Maribel obviously in February. I then came back in April for the Easter weekend. Got to see one of my daughters baptizing the other, which was incredible.
Yeah.
On both trips, I noticed you're a social animal. I remember the first evening when me and Laura had just driven literally almost 24 hours to get down to the south of France. Gracie, there's a drum and bass event in the village. You've got to come. And she's like, yeah, great, we're going. And I was like, oh, but don't you want to hang out with us? But clearly a mutual love of drum and bass, I think. But you were always doing stuff with different people and you knew everybody. And not a lot of people have that sort of gift that have your sort of background.
I think my background is what makes it so easy for me. What I've been through and what I've struggled with, I would not change a single way for the way I've grown in the ability to talk to people and my confidence and like the love I have now of what I've been through. I have so much love because I never want anyone to feel like that. You know, just smiling at someone or saying hello, you don't know what the other person is going through on that day. So they might be, you know, in a really dark place, but by saying hello or smiling at them can really change the face of a day. And I think that was sort of like my role in France. Like I found was that I literally just have to go and spend time with people all the time and break stereotypes and just show love to people. And so for the entire February, March and April, I was doing something all the time. I was meeting up with someone every day, someone new every day. Like I was just everywhere. You know, my longest day was 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., like 26 hours.
Wow.
Just because I had a sunrise boot pack, but then there was also an event the next night, like one of the clubs that I promised I'd go to with this friend with to keep him company, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's just like something that was so important to me was meeting people. And I've seen some of them since then, you know, and France was so hard because we're the Christians, you know, we're the Christians in the resort.
Yeah.
So no one really liked us. And yet somehow God found a way to use me and get into that group, into one of the groups, into multiple groups of being just a good friend and just being a good guy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Because I think when you attach that label, like when you attach, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, look at that thumbs up's come up again. You attach that label of I'm a Christian and people automatically, doesn't matter where you are, unless they've come from that sort of background, people will go, ooh, okay, keep your distance. What are you going to do? Are you going to be like holding some sort of prayer ritual for my soul? And a lot of the work that you guys were doing was about really trying to break down those rules and just show people you're just normal people. You're just normal people that have struggles, that have real stories, that have real lives, that have, you know, real issues, but also have been captivated by this message of hope and love and light in a really dark place. So it's hard. What you guys are doing is really hardcore. Lots of people used to say to me, they'd be like, oh, Gracie's doing a Christian missionary in one of the richest ski resorts in the world.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure? Shouldn't they be in Africa, like feeding the poor? And you're like, do you know what? It's needed. Light is needed in dark places, whether it's darkness in France, darkness in Nigeria, or darkness on the streets of Los Angeles. Darkness is the same wherever you go, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, yes, those missions in Africa or wherever are hugely important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that, like, and I can't, you know, sit here and be like, yeah, my mission was really hard, because I was staying in a lovely chalet. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a bed like on a mattress, you know. I was not saying in the sticks in Africa, you know. I can't sit here and be like my mission was hard. I can say that the importance of the mission is still there, going out and meeting those people where they are. You know, a lot of these people I've spoken to had friends. There was this one friend I had who wouldn't stop asking me about suffering, because they've seen that, you know, this person has died at 22, this friend has died at 6 years old, this person did this, you know, and they couldn't get their heads around it, but like they still had the questions. And like, we have to be there to answer those questions, but also be a light in a very dark place. And I think that, you know, Jesus is that light, and it doesn't matter where you are as long as you show it.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So let's shift gears again. We're ramping through our gears now. So thinking about all of that, thinking about kind of your experience of mental health and obviously your time in altitude, how does all of this relate to endurance athletics? This is the PKS Running Club after all. So if I couldn't segue us back into running, then it would be my failure as a podcast host. How has all of that formed and shaped you as an endurance athlete?
I think as an endurance athlete, you kind of just have to just get on with it. Yeah. I think like it's just going to hurt. And I don't know how much of altitude has really impacted that, except that, you know, when you run past someone, just be like, well done, mate, you're doing well. Like just cheering them on. And I think that's sort of like what I was doing in France, is just showing love. And I think that's still really important when you're doing races, is to show love to people, because, you know, it's tough. It's really hard doing ultra marathons, and it hurts a lot. And you don't know whether someone's about to pull out or not. Yeah. You just have to keep people going, keep talking to people, because talking to people passes the time as well.
Oh, yeah. I honestly, I bet you would be the dream person to, like, I don't know. I feel like if I was running an ultra marathon, which I've never done one, I've done 30 miles on my own in training, but I've never done an ultra marathon. But I imagine if you sidled up alongside me and gave me some chat, I just think it would be I think it would be like manna from heaven. It would just be like, okay, there's this young whippersnapper who's now encouraging me and cheering me on at a point at which I am thinking, why am I not at home, like watching Netflix? I just think I think that's incredible. I think that would be so good. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the ultra marathon. I think we have that is what you call a segue. What have you just run?
So as of last Saturday, I ran the Lakeland 50. Yeah. Starting in Dale, Maine, near Penrith in the Lake District, and I ran down to Coniston, down in the South Lakes, and it's a 50-mile event with about 3,000 meters of elevation.
Wowzers. Yeah. That's 50 miles, not 50k.
Yeah. 50 miles, yes.
50 miles. So almost 2 marathons. So you didn't just go, oh, do you know what? Let's not bother doing the marathon. You're just like, let's times the marathon by 2, take off 10 miles, and that'll show them. Yeah. But yeah, how was that? Because you live in the Lake District, so that's your backyard.
Yeah. So the start line is 10 minutes from my house.
Amazing.
So absolute dreamy. Yeah. And so it was actually really amazing. The whole event is just start to finish. It's just an incredible day out. And like, you know, going to the first checkpoint is my 10K run. Like if I were to go out for a 10K now, that's the route I'd go, plus a bit extra, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, it was truly amazing. There's, you know, I think there's 6 checkpoints throughout the whole thing. Yeah. And they're usually about 15 kilometers apart, maybe slightly less later on. Yeah. Yeah.
So self-supported, or are there aid stations at those checkpoints?
Yeah, so those aid stations, they are supported, but you have to be self-supported within your own kit that you bring. Yeah. So there's like 14 mandatory things you have to bring on the kit list and carry, mainly clothes, other things like compass, map, you know, head torches, whistles, first aid kits, blankets, all sorts.
Wow, okay. And did you have to use the torch? Sorry, not the torch. Did you have to use the map and the compass? Or is that the fail-safe?
That's the fail-safe. So I just had GPS, but also just follow the person in front of you for 95% of it. Yeah. And it was, the aid stations were amazing in some of them and terrible in others, just because of how I was feeling at the time. Yeah. You know, the first one, they had salty potatoes, and I cannot stress enough how good salty potatoes are. They're just like new potatoes, but just covered in salt. It was so good. Yeah.
And this is really interesting, right? Because I think this is where the marathon and the ultra marathon differ massively. Because one, at that aid station, you stop, you take a rest. Yes or not? How are you eating these salty potatoes? You're just reaching in and grabbing them on the go and like,
pretty like it depends how far you're in, you know, what kind of runner you are. is it a sit down one or is it a I'm just dropping by? So for me, for all of them except one, I literally went in there, grabbed some things and left.
Okay.
You know, and it was literally just like, I'd probably fill up my water and the juice and whatever I needed, like my electrolytes, get a couple bits of food, but like eat them as I'm walking out of the aid station. Don't sit down. Yeah. As soon as you sit down, you don't want to stand up again.
Yeah.
And that's you done.
I can believe that.
There was one aid station where I was really struggling to eat. So this is at marathon distance. It's 44 kilometers even.
So that's the furthest you've ever been. You have
outside of, so in training, actually, before I'd even started training, 30 kilometers was the furthest. But I did an ultra that I signed up for on a Friday and did on the Sunday, and that was 55k.
Oh.
So 55k is the furthest I've been, but that was like a race like a month before the big ultra.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like a training preparation.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you're at marathon point. So what happens then at this aid station? You're feeling...
Yeah, I was feeling great coming out of the last one. I'm running well, 6-minute kilometers on the downhill, which is slow, but it's fast when you've been running for a while up and down. But I'm getting to the aid station. You know, I'm just starting to feel quite sick and just don't want to eat. And rule 1 of ultra marathons is you eat. You need to eat. It doesn't matter if you don't want to, you need to eat. You know, but I'm walking into the aid station and, you know, the electrolyte powder mountain fuel that I'm using is really, really sweet.
Yeah.
But then I look on the tables of what they're offering and it's all just really sweet stuff. So I'm already like, this is just grim. So I try even one sweet and I just spit it straight out into the bin. So I end up filling my juice back up. And I end up leaving with, I think it was 4 digestive biscuits as sort of like my aid station, which was pretty good. Yeah. It's like, in terms of not wanting to eat, it's not great food, I'll be honest. But I needed to eat something and it was savory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you taking on any gels? Or is it all? It's all real food. It's all like proper food that you actually munch.
So I haven't trained with gels. I haven't used gels, so I don't tend to like gels really. I wasn't going to try gels on the race day because I've also just heard that it just ruins your stomach, and I already have enough problems with my stomach, so I don't really want to try them. Trying to keep away from it. So I usually eat a lot of solids. Saurine, like malt loaf. Incredible energy. I often use Tailwind electrolyte as well. It's got like carbohydrates and your salt and all you need in there or whatever. And that keeps me fueled great. Yeah, and sweets as well. When I don't want to eat anything else, I'll just have a couple jelly babies because I quite like jelly babies or like sweets or like Haribo. I just quite like the taste of sweets, so I just go for that. But if I've had too much sweet stuff, all I want is savory stuff. Yeah. So on that day, I think I ended up having 4.5 sandwiches, like as in halves of the sandwiches. So, yeah, and you just need to eat what you fancy, pretty much, because you're running for 12 hours. Yeah. You know, have your porridge and your Lucozade before you start. But after that, you just need to replenish energy.
Yeah, because it was how was the weather? Was it hot? We've been in this crazy heat wave. Was it the same up there?
So it wasn't actually. It'd literally been like the second day of it cooled down. So I think it was about 22 degrees.
Okay.
And it was like fairly cloudy, but like the sun was creeping through. But it was humid. It was really humid, especially going in between like the bracken. So that was really hard. But I was really lucky to have finished just before the weather got really, really bad. Yeah. And like overnight, that night that followed, it rained for hours and hours and hours, and it was really poor weather. And unfortunately, some people had to run on it. A lot of people had to run on it. In fact, I think 80% of the runners had to run in it.
Wow. Okay. And that's really because some doing the 50 were slower than you, but also because some are doing the 100.
Yeah. And that is the big thing. So the 100 runners hadn't started at the same time. I started at 10 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday.
Yeah.
The 100 runners have started at 6 p.m. on the Friday night. So they've already done one night. And they're going into their second And so the first night I think was actually pretty good. Like it was dry. It was cold, but it was dry. So, when we get to when I'm getting to my race at 9:00, sort of like sitting down, waiting to go, you're watching all the 100 runners run past to go to the aid station and everyone's clapping and it's great. They've already run 55 miles and they have another 50 to go.
It's extraordinary. Is that tempting?
Yeah, big time. I want to do it next year.
You do?
Yeah. I'm already thinking about it. I'm already like, what if I just did the 100? But I don't know if I could. In terms of what I have this year, I don't know if I could put enough training into it.
Yeah. So what was the darkest point of the ultra? Because there must have been some points where you want to quit. Did that happen?
I don't think I'd gone far enough to make me want to quit.
Yeah.
I think there was a couple times where I was like, this is hard, but I was nowhere near quitting. I think I'd had to run another, probably close to another 30 miles to make me want to quit. Just because of and I would have run it differently. If I had to run 80 miles instead of 50 miles, you kind of adjust to it. And yeah, the 80 miles, if I was at 60, I would have been like, I'm 20 miles from the end. I'm not going to quit. And I think that the darkest place was probably at that 44 kilometers. Coming out of there, I was just like, yeah, this is hard.
Yeah.
And for the next 10K was really hard. There was a big climb. I think it had 400 meters of elevation coming out of it, going into the 55K mark, which is the big checkpoint called Ambleside, where all the people are and all the streets are lined with people just sat at the pubs or waiting for the runners, and you get cheered through the whole thing.
Wow.
And it's an incredible moment, and it makes people cry. Even the 50 runners, people were crying everywhere. In terms of the runners, I was almost tearing up because it was just it's hard, but everyone's so happy for you.
Yeah.
And I think by running into there, I was in a hard place, but I saw my mum and my sister, which was really lovely. But it was also really hard because all I could see was chips, burgers, pizzas and pints, and that's all I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
But yeah, that aid station was really great. I got to see loads of people, my mum and my sister as well. But also they had cheese and pickle sandwiches, which I've never wanted more in my life than
I bet.
That. Yeah.
And did your dad run it?
He didn't run it this year, but he has done, both my parents have done the 50 twice. And my dad's done the 100 once.
Wow. So you're properly from proper running pedigree then?
Yeah, I think especially in the last 10 years, definitely running family, that's for sure.
Do you think you would have, if your parents hadn't been runners, do you think you would have found running because of your locality? Or do you think that's been, has that been the sort of the familial inspiration?
I think it is definitely I think because my parents have done it and I've seen what it's like to run those races and seen what it means to them and what it means to me to think about me coming through the finish line. I think that it definitely that's had a big effect for me. Whether I would have found running, I think I would have for sure, but I think that I don't know if I would have gone down the ultras route. I think I would have probably gone for more shorter races, probably.
Yeah. We're almost at time, but how do you taper for an event like that? I presume you must do. Yeah, talk about that.
You definitely taper. I mean, my training was terrible. The whole thing, start to finish, was terrible. I'm terrible at training, really. I think the biggest week I did was about 78 kilometers, maybe 80 kilometers.
Yeah.
And that was probably a month before. And then after that, I probably did a couple 50 kilometer weeks and then maybe a 30 kilometer week, and then just sort of stopped running the week before because I just couldn't be bothered. And also just generally was just trying to make sure I didn't have any injuries, which I still managed for the race. I still managed to get injured, but
what did you injure?
It was my abductor or hip flexor region on my right leg. So I did that on the Tuesday before. And so then by I think by kilometer 4, I was kind of a bit this hurts to run on.
But you just soldiered through.
Yeah.
Dan, in honesty, you've made it sound like it was a bit of a walk in the park.
anyone can do this. Anyone
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah,
And if you have people here saying, "Oh, I can't even run 10K,"
yeah.
give it a year, you'll run 20. Give it another year, you'll run a marathon. Give
Yeah.
it another year, then you can run 50 miles. Yes, maybe you might not be able to do it tomorrow and be walking okay. If you did it tomorrow, you could finish 50 miles. Would you end up in the back of an ambulance? Maybe, if you've done it untrained. But like 50 miles isn't that bad. When you get to 100 miles, that is a different story. But I think that people see 50 miles as like something so far in the distance. But I think that people really can do this.
Yeah. I remember, and I remember when I started running, which was when Gracie was 6 months old. I remember I signed up almost instantly for a half marathon. And I remember vividly, we were living in New Zealand at the time, and I remember we were away for a weekend, and I said to Laura, I said, as we're driving, I said, see what 13 miles feels like. And I got to the end of it, and I thought, oh my goodness, 13 miles is such a long way, and I could not comprehend, one, how I was ever going to get to 13 miles. Oh, there's that thumbs up again. And two, how anyone could ever even conceive of running any further than that. And I guess conceptually, I understood that there was a concept called a marathon. I had no idea that there was a thing called an ultra marathon. But now I think, like you, I really believe that I think anyone can do this stuff. I think it all comes down to what are you willing to commit. How much effort are you willing to put in? What are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And are you willing to embrace pain and suffering?
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of takes us back to some of that earlier conversation, because I think you have to be willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I think that's the beauty of ultra marathons. So you have to be able to say, yeah, this hurts, but like mentally I'm good. So I'm just going to keep going. And I think that, 50 miles, like by kilometer 4, I was hurting, but I was like so mentally good. Like I was so happy in my mind that I was like, there's no reason to stop. And it's something that I think is like, if you're physically hurting, that's no reason to stop. If you have a medical reason to stop, then probably listen to the medics. But if you're mentally okay, keep going.
Yeah.
If like, it's when your mind says, I can't do anymore, that's when you need to stop listening to it and just keep pushing. Courtney Dauwalter, one of the most famous female ultramarathon runners of all time, she's won loads of things. She's beaten every person of the Western States. I believe it was the Western States. But she talks about the pain cave, where her mind is and her body are in so much pain that she literally just stops thinking everything and literally just like puts one foot in front of the other, as if she's just like got a chisel and a hammer in a cave, and it's just each bang with a hammer is just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And you just keep going.
It's extraordinary. Honestly, it's so inspiring. I would love to do an ultra. I think my big concern, I suspect I could probably cruise a 50 miler. I think if I had run alongside you at your pace, I think I would hopefully be able to survive it. I do a lot of running, and never say that until you can actually do it. Yeah. The bit that worries me, or the bit that concerns me, is that pain cave bit, because for me, running is such an integral part of my kind of mental health toolkit that when I read stories of people who do the 100 milers and they're like, I pretty much couldn't really walk for a month, and I'm not sure I'm prepared for that. I think I would hold the bigger picture and go, I can feel a little niggle in my knee and it feels like it could be an injury. Oh yeah, I'll stop. And I think understanding the difference between an injury and just your body being lazy and just telling you, just quit. Come on, let's not put this effort in. I think that's probably where the magic kind of little mind space is.
Absolutely. And I think that's the big thing is like, is it worth the injury? Like for the 5 days after the race, 2 of those days I felt like throwing up and I couldn't eat very well for the next 2 days. I've only started walking again yesterday, really, like walking normally yesterday. Maybe that's just because I'm just not as like strong as I could have been, but like.
And for reference, we're recording this on a Friday.
So this is 6 days after.
6 days after. Wow.
Yeah. But I think it is so worth, like, for me, I think injury, I will heal. My body will heal. And having the glory of finishing 240 miler, like Moab 240 is like, imagine finishing that. Even if you have torn something, but you're still moving, I think keep going. For me personally.
Yeah.
I equally, it might be so painful that you can't.
Yeah. So how did it feel then, crossing that line? What did that feel like?
I think it was just like at first it was like I'm proud of myself. I've done it. I've run the 50 miles that I've seen grown up watching my parents do, and now I'm here. And I think within about 10 minutes after, I'm like, right, what's next? And I was sort of like, I'm sort of just like, I've got the bug now.
Yeah.
They call it the ultra bug, and that's what I'm looking for. And I think that I need to try and find a race that will put me in the pain cave. Really, I'm trying to look for a chat, like not necessarily a challenge, but like something that's going to really test me. Yeah. And I think that now I've done a 50 miler, it's sort of like I've passed that test. What's the next test? Until it's going to be so hard that who knows if I'll pass the test,
Yeah. Does a backyard tempt you or not?
Yeah, I think backyards are really interesting. I think they are so incredibly hard. I don't think I would suit the backyard ultra style because you have to run at a pace as well. I'm not necessarily great at pacing. You have to run it on average under 9-minute kilometers until you can't anymore. Yeah. And I don't think I'd suit that. But I think it's a great format. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Crazy. Dan, this has been so great. This has been really great. And I've been asking the last couple of people that I've chatted to, and I'm going to continue asking this. Can I, and the stakes are going to be way higher with this question, can I come and run an ultra marathon with you?
Oh, you can do. I don't know what
I don't want to do something longer than 50. That at this point, I think I need a gentle introduction. I need just
50k or 50 miles.
50 miles would be fine.
Yeah,
not fine. It would
absolutely.
Let's try and figure something out. I don't like events. I don't like races. I think ultras could be maybe a sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
I think mental resilience. I think I might be there, but more than that, I do genuinely, as much as I bemoan running with other people online, when I find people that I enjoy and I like their company, like the idea of running an event with them just sounds brilliant. So I'd love to do it, and I'd love you to put me through put me through the ringer. So let's have a little think about that.
Yeah, well,
if there's one thing that you would like to leave our listeners, all 5 of them, coming away with, what would it be, Dan? What's the message? What's the summary of this story, of your journey? What's the one takeaway?
I think for me, if you trust in Jesus, then you could do a lot more than what your body thinks, and your mind can too. Yeah, incredible. Dan, it has been so great to catch up. I've genuinely loved every minute of this. Thanks for having me. And I feel encouraged, stirred, challenged, a little bit terrified. I like marathons. They're safe. They're really safe. I don't like them as well because I try and run them fast. I like the idea of running slowly. Yeah. But this has been an absolute pleasure. We'll look at doing an event, and folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Do subscribe on your podcast platform. Do come and follow the PKS Running Club on Instagram. Dan, have you got a handle that you're willing to share publicly that people can find you? I don't really have one, to be honest. I don't have a handle. So. You don't? He doesn't have a handle. He hasn't got a handle. There we go. No. That's the title of the podcast. I don't have a handle. Dan, thank you so much, mate. This has been an absolute delight and a pleasure. Yeah, take care, mate, and keep going with the recovery. Yeah, thanks so much.